Hello everyone, it's me, Smiley Productions. This is the second video of the series where I rank Disney movies separated by eras. There are 7 eras or ages: the Golden Age, the Wartime era, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, the Renaissance era, the Post-Renaissance era, and the Revival era. In this video, I'm going to rank the Wartime era. With that said, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. These are all my personal opinions. It's a least favorite to most favorite list, and not a worst to best. I hope you enjoy. Number 6. Fun and Fancy Free. This is the worst movie out of this era. No wait, maybe even out of all Disney movies. Fun and Fancy Free contains 2 segments. The first segment is Bongo, and this is the worst segment out of this movie. I'll explain. Bongo is an annoying circus bear who hates his life. He wants to be free, so he escapes from the circus to live in the wild. However, it's not as great as he expected. But then he meets this girl bear, and that's where the movie starts to become weird. Okay, so Bongo and this girl fall in love, and to show Bongo how much she loves him, she slaps him. I'm not kidding, this isn't a joke. There's even a whole song about this called "Say It With a Slap." Bongo doesn't slap her, and that's how the conflict starts. You know what? I don't think I have to explain why this is the weirdest storyline ever. And honestly, I don't even want to spend more time talking about this movie, so I'll make it short. There's another bear that is in love with the girl bear, and they get into a fight and blah blah de blah, and they live a happy ever after. Yeah, let's move on to the next segment. Mickey and the Beanstalk. Okay, before I talk about this segment, I have to talk about the puppets. Don't know what I'm talking about? Well, Jiminy Cricket is invited to a birthday party of this little girl. But the birthday party is with almost only puppets. It's honestly the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. And the worst thing is that the man at the birthday party is the narrator of the story. This means that we see the puppets over the entire course of the movie. But the segment is basically just a Jack and the Beanstalk story, so just watch any Jack and the Beanstalk story and you will know exactly what happens in this movie. And you're probably watching a better version of it. I do want to mention the scene where Mickey cuts the extremely thin bread, because that might be my favorite part of this entire movie. So yeah, I really hate this movie, and that's why it's in 6th place. Number 5. The Three Caballeros. This movie starts off okay with a cute story about a penguin named Pablo who lives at the South Pole, but he's unhappy there because it's too cold. He'd rather live on a nice tropical island, so he travels all the way to the tropical island to live his dream life. But at the end of the day, he does kind of long back to go to the South Pole. And it's just such a cute story. Then we go to the next segment. It's about a boy and a flying donkey named Burrito, and they try to win this race, but then the other competitors found out that Burrito is a flying donkey and they get disqualified because flying wasn't allowed. So they just fled, and we never saw them ever again. This wasn't the worst story I've ever seen, but it wasn't good either. Then we get to the third segment, which was basically a lot of singing, and it had live action in it, which was totally out of place. And to top things off, Donald Duck was flirting with all these live action women, and it was weird and boring at the same time. There is just nothing more to say about this segment, so let's move on to the 4th segment. This one is even weirder because we suddenly talk about Christmas in Mexico. I mean, don't get me wrong, the story itself wasn't weird, but it was just so random after seeing all of that nonsense. Also, I want to say, I'm not going to judge if the story was even accurate. I'll let you decide that because this movie did have a disclaimer. So, I don't trust its accuracy. Then after that, we suddenly go back to live-action women singing and dancing with Donald Duck flirting with them. And I'm just so done with this movie. Let's just move on because there are so many more bad movies I have to talk about. I don't like this movie, and that's why it's in 5th place. Number 4. Saludos amigos. The movie starts off with this segment of Donald Duck learning about Brazil. Sort of. Again, I can't say for a fact if this is accurate or not, but it did have a disclaimer in the beginning of the movie. So, probably not. And then Donald Duck has this flute. And that flute makes the most annoying sound you could possibly imagine a flute making. And the llama kind of follows the music or something. I don't like this segment because it gives me a headache. So let's just move on to the second segment. Pietro, an airplane who needs to deliver a package. I don't really mind this one, but it wasn't great, and there isn't much more to say about it, so let's move on to the third segment. And this is with Goofy and a horse. I honestly don't really remember what happened. I literally had to rewatch it for this video. And I think they're trying to explain more about the culture, which again is probably still not 100% accurate. So let's move on to the fourth segment. This is probably my favorite segment out of this movie because it's basically just a song where they're painting the story and Donald Duck is in it. It's a creative segment and kind of fun to watch. I do think this movie is a lot better than the movies that were in 5th and 6th place, but I still think this isn't one of the best. And that's why it's in 4th place. Number 3, Melody Time. Saludos amigos and Melody Time are equally bad, but I guess I like Melody Time a little bit better. The first segment is about a boy and this girl, and a male and a female bunny. So, the female bunny and the girl are in danger because the ice they were skating on cracked. And there is a waterfall ahead of them. So the boys try to save them, but they fail. Luckily, these animals save them, but the girls give the boys the credit, and it's cute. I like this segment. It was fun to watch. It's probably one of my favorite segments out of this movie. Then the second segment is the most random thing I've ever seen. It's a bumblebee who kind of gets bullied by music or something like that. It's really short. After that, you have the third segment. Johnny Appleseed. This is about a guy named Johnny, and he's working for this man while he's nice to these animals. The animals help him plant apple seeds, and he plants a lot of apple trees. And then the people could eat all kinds of things with apples in it. But then Johnny gets old and dies. He turns into this ghost. And that's where the story becomes weirder and more annoying. Not to mention how annoying Johnny becomes, acting like a 4-year-old. And then this man talks to Johnny, the ghost. They agree on something and then suddenly the story ends. I didn't like this segment and it was very long. Let's move on. Okay, so now we're at the fourth segment and this is a really annoying segment called Little Toot. Do you know a really annoying kid song? Well, that's exactly what this song in this segment is. Okay, so you have Little Toot and he misbehaves a lot. Because of Little Toot's actions, now a ship crashed into a city. And do you know what the worst part is? I'm not making this up. Little Toot gets arrested by the police. He hurt his father who now lost his job or something like that. So Little Toot got isolated from the rest of the boats. Oh wait, did I even mention that Little Toot was a boat? Oops, well, now you know. And then a storm comes in. Little Toot calls SOS, saves a big ship, and now he's a hero. Then suddenly his father is doing just fine and everything gets solved, and he is now the best person in the world. I mean, the best boat in the world, I guess. Oh, this is the worst segment of this movie. I hate it. Then there is suddenly this random season segment. Yeah, it's just that. Nothing much happens. And then it gets even better because we get more Donald Duck singing with live-action women because we didn't have enough of that in the Three Compañeros. And by this point, I'm annoyed with this movie, but maybe, just maybe, Pegos Bill will save the ending of the movie. So, Bill got raised by coyotes, and he becomes the best cowboy that has ever lived. But then there is his girl and he falls in love with her and wait, I forgot to mention that Bill has a horse. and it got so jealous of the girl, so when the girl rides the horse, it becomes mad. And, well, let's say legends say that she bounced all the way to the moon. What a weird ending. Also, I hate that horse. Did this segment save the ending? Probably not, but I also didn't hate this segment. Yeah, I don't really like this movie, but it's still in third place. Number 2. Make My Music. It starts off with a segment about two families that can't stand each other, so they all shoot each other. And everyone dies. Again, the worst part is I'm not making this up. However, two of them survive and they fall in love with each other. Now the ghost families that are up in the cloud are very disappointed. Luckily for them, by the end of the story, the boy and the girl hate each other and the families are satisfied again. What a great story. Then we get to the second segment. Yeah, it's just music with a bird flying. Just that, nothing more. The third segment is All the Cats Join In. This is where the story is drawn again, kind of like in Saludos Amigos. And it's fun times. It gives you a smile, but obviously this movie wants you to be sad again. So after this segment, you get this depressing segment called Without You. And I could not tell you what this is about because I literally don't know. And after that, I really want something better, but no. We get to the next segment called Cassie at the Bat. And I don't like it. It's a baseball story where Cassie cannot hit the ball. Never. It's so boring and predictable. So let's move on to the next segment. The next segment is called Two Silhouettes. Wow, I wonder what it's about. It's about two silhouettes? Are you kidding me? No, literally, it's just two silhouettes dancing. The next segment is called David Bowie Narrates Disney's Peter and the Wolf. This is actually a pretty good segment. Every animal got its own instrument that you hear every time a certain animal was shown. And that was a really cool in combination with the narration. I would actually recommend people to watch this segment. The next segment is Johnny Fedora and Alice Bluebonnet. And this is the best segment out of this movie. A love story between two hats that get separated because one of them got bought. Johnny, that's one of the hats, looks for Alice, the one who was bought, everywhere and follows her around. At the end, a couple finds the hats and everyone lives happily ever after. It's a great story, and I absolutely love it. Finally, we get to the last segment of this movie, Willie the Operatic Whale. Willie is a whale who can sing opera, but the impresario believes that Willie ate a singer, and to save the singer, he kills the whale. I'm still not making this up. And the worst part is their attempt of a happy ending is that Willie sings as much as he wants in his afterlife. Now that I think about it, that's kind of the most depressing ending I could possibly imagine. But this is probably the first movie on this list that I don't mind watching, and that's why it's in second place. Number 1. The Adventures of Mr. Toad and Inchabot. This movie contains two segments, just like in Fun and Fantasy Free. The one thing that these segments have in common is that the main characters are both unlikable. The first segment is The Wind in the Willows, and it's about Mr. Toad, who is a very unlikable protagonist. He is very rich and uses his money to do all these crazy things he gets obsessed about. But that always leads into a lot of damage that costs him even more money. And this time he got obsessed with a car. Because he spent so much money, he didn't have much left, so he sold his entire house for a car. But surprise, surprise, it was a stolen car, and no one believes he's innocent after he told his story, and he ends up in jail. But then his great friends that he treated like trash help him out. They prove that Mr. Toad was innocent the entire time, and now they have their happy ending. Until Mr. Toad's next obsession. I really like this segment. It's probably my favorite one out of all of these movies. The songs are fun, and it's overall good times. But then you get to the next segment, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. I think I did prefer Mr. Toad's segment, but this one isn't bad either. The segment definitely peaks at the end when we actually get to see the Headless Horseman. Before that, it's basically unlikable Inshabad doing unlikable stuff with unlikable characters, trying to get rich by marrying a girl who has a rich dad, and stuff like that. Then we also have this Gaston-like character who does a lot of annoying things. This is definitely my favorite movie out of the wartime era, and that's why it's in first place. Making this movie was really hard because I just don't really like the movies in the wartime era. I'm definitely more excited for the Silver Age ranking, so make sure to watch that video too when I finally post it. And let me know down below in the comments, what do you think of the movies in the wartime era?